Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to Sqee's Ranting and Ravings, a show where I scream into the universe and I hope the void answers back. Hey, void, you left your toothbrush. It's sitting in the bathroom. All right, so this is the start of a brand new show where I basically do the same rants and raves I do with people in my Discord communities and everything like that. I guess I'll just go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Sqee. I'm a plague doctor and gamer and anime enthusiast. And I have a lot of things that piss me off, and I have a lot of opinions. And people think that I'm funny, and so I'm going to try and be a dancing monkey for all of you people too. A little other things about me. I study a lot of like literature, literary theory. I'm educated in actually to be a professor. I've worked as a professor in the past, so the name isn't just for show. And I taught mostly in things like composition and storytelling and how to develop an argument. So now I'm going to use that to rant into void. I guess a little bit more about what the show is it's just going to kind of be looking at different topics and kind of breaking things down, and not just, ranting at it, but going a little bit deeper into kind of, why I kind of developed these thoughts and breaking things down, and that sort of thing. As far as like topics go, this was basically inspired by me going and watching a show that was incredibly popular when I was a teenager. I felt like I could not escape it, and I'll get a little bit more into that in a little bit. But basically, like many things, this came through in a night where there may or may not have been some sort of substances involved. And I went on an hour-long rant because I was so pissed off about this show, and I just couldn't believe that I had lived this long without understanding how freaking bad it was. Just as a way to kind of throw myself on the internet, I've always thought about it. And I do things like I go to conventions. If you're ever at a convention, for anime and video games and stuff like that, you might spot me running around in my full plague doctor outfit. And so it's been a passion, for basically my whole life. And I don't know. I guess I'll talk a little bit about like what my favorite anime are, so it'll give you a little better understanding of me. My favorite anime of all time is Yu Yu Hakusho, because I am a shonen trash monkey, and I love my shonen trash. But I also think that there's a little bit more to the anime than just pure shonen. But I think the best anime that's been released is probably Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Now, it's not my favorite anime. It's up there. But as far as like a constructed story, from beginning to end, how it, is developed, how the story beats go, the characterizations, how the characters develop, how the story goes from beginning to end, it's all tied up in a nice, neat bow. And I think we all know that anime's biggest Achilles heel is the endings mostly suck. Anime endings are almost universally awful. Because unless they're starting with a fully developed story, most of the time it's like, are we going to get renewed for another season, or in the manga, is the manga going to continue to go on, and we end up just never getting anything good at the end. And so when you look at something like Full Metal Alchemist, it has an ending, it has a complete and closed story. And those are all the kinds of things that I look at when I'm looking at anime, and why I get so frustrated, because you'd think these things would be simple, and no matter what, they just manage to fuck everything up every single time. And so, how we're going to kind of do this is I'll spend a week, or I'll spend a show kind of going over what the show we're going to go through, what the reason is. I'm not going to just go through anything. If I want to find a terrible anime, or if I want to find a terrible game, or if I want to find something terrible I can rant about, I could go anywhere and anything. I could find the most awful anime, you know. uh, that's easy. There's a million of them. I could go on any streaming service, Crunchyroll and High Dive, and find some piece of trash in 5 seconds. But I'm looking more at things that had some sort of impact, something that affected, the world, and seemed like, on paper, by all means, this should be something amazing, right? It should be something incredible. It's changed people's lives. It's impacted how they think, who they are, and everything like that. And yet, for some reason, I watch it and I'm like, this is fucking awful. And that's exactly what happened when I watched Death Note. Excuse me. Still getting over a little bit of illness. The plague doctor mask doesn't really help with the flu. It turns out. Didn't work with the Black Plague either. Anyway. So again, essentially the order of shows is we'll go over the topic, what's the cultural impact of it, maybe go into a little bit of the first kind of arc of the show, and then go through kind of each arc, and stopping at each point. I'll go episode by episode, pointing out like really shameful crap that I really hate. Especially with this anime, it's kind of really easy. I could pick any number of moments from any number of episodes, but we'll kind of take it step by step through the story beats, and then finally we'll wrap up with a closing episode where I basically just spit at the screen and yell and rant until my voice goes out, and then we end. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's the worst, but it's definitely up there. I think the main reason why this ended up being the first thing I wanted to choose is I've never seen such an anime that it is like the perfect teenage anime. That was the thing that I realized when I wanted to do this first topic introduction, is that it's perfect teenager bait. There's never been anything that I've seen, that I've watched, and it's not that it's like just built for teenagers. There's plenty of things like that. But if I wanted to watch a bunch of like teenager jerk bait, I could just go watch The Breakfast Club. There's other options than Death Note, and things that are better. But so what I mean by like teenage bait is Death Note creates a perfect fantasy for teenagers. It's exactly what any teenager is looking for in a world, in a fantasy. I think everyone has that kind of moment of like grandiose power, when you're a teen, and that's what this anime really gets to. An anime that's made me question everything in existence. That's a really great question. I'll have to think about that. Because we might end up having a set of episodes about it. Honestly, though, Death Note kind of did make me question my existence, because I couldn't believe something so popular was so freaking awful. It was just the most awful thing, and it made me sad because there are things that are really, really great about the show that make me understand, why. The fashion in it's really amazing. The music in it's really amazing. I think everyone's heard, and let's see if this will actually come through. All right. Hopefully this isn't too loud and I don't blast y'all's ears out. But I think everyone's heard the famous. All right. You guys have to let me know if the piano actually came through. That's like this really, really famous piano little beat that is super, super recognizable. If I went to an anime convention and I just played those few notes, like everyone on the floor would immediately recognize it and turn around. Like everyone would feel goosebumps. Everyone would be like, "Oh, what the hell's going on? You know, is there some like what cosplayers or Shinigami running around? Like, what the heck's going on?" It's one of the most recognizable sounds in the history of anime. This thing was so big when I was a teenager; it was inescapable. Whether it was shirts at Hot Topic or people sitting like one of the characters that will go over. There's the really famous L, who's always eating candy and stuff like that. Let me see. L eating candy is, if you look it up on the internet. Let me pull up just kind of an example here of what I mean. All right. Is this the right one? Yeah, we're doing things. If you just look up L eating, and this is just me typing L eating. I didn't type Death Note. I didn't type anything else. Okay, and it's just L eating. And so that's how ubiquitous it is, right? We have this kind of thing where even just typing something that simple, the first thing that freaking comes up is that character. And there's other characters with similar names, especially other characters in the show, but that's how like crazy iconic this thing ended up being. And so that's why this ended up being the target, and that's what I'm looking for. That whole side rant is just a kind of a way to explain that I'm looking for something that people really cared about, and I want to like dig deeper into it and see like what is really that made that. And I hit Death Note and I just hated it. I just hated it so freaking much. But I really want to like dig into like why that is. I don't like just reacting at things and going, "Oh, I freaking hate this." I want to understand why I hate this. I want to understand like it acutely, and then I want to share that with people, because I've been doing this for years, and I might as well just yell out into the universe. So things that I kind of like will and won't cover, I guess, is things is something kind of important here. While I want to focus on things like cultural impact, I don't necessarily want to go into like incidents that the anime may have caused, or like some of the more violent kind of responses to anime and things like that. We've unfortunately had a few incidents and things that I don't want to go further into on Twitch, where people have attributed things like that to things like Death Note. And so but that's not really what the show is about, or it's more just focused on the show itself. And what was the kind of larger kind of impact or change that it did. Connections to like music and fashion and how people acted and what people did in the larger sense, not necessarily individuals and things like that. And I'm not going to be going into like Death Note. Everyone loves talking about Death Note and philosophy. It's like the unending story of a high schooler picking up a philosophy book after watching the first season of Death Note and thinking they're the smartest person in the frickin' room. I swear to God, I saw it so often when I was a teenager. I just vomited. Go in the bathroom, vomit, because everything's freaking Death Note. Every day it's Death Note. Frickin' Kira, frickin' L every day. And that's how frickin' popular it was. But I don't want to go into all of that background philosophy and what does everything mean and everything like that, because that's a whole other show. That's its own book. That's its own freaking discussion. I'm more want to go into just the show itself. Why isn't it good? Why are the characters falling apart for me? Because that's really what I got into. I didn't feel any attachment. I didn't get any obsession. I didn't get how people could have any connection to this character or any of the characters without it, the way that they do, without it like just being because of the pure fantasy of it, right? It didn't make any sense to me. I'm looking at a bunch of blank characters, and that's when I start getting really pissed, because characters to me are the most important thing. and I watch things that sometimes aren't as about characters, it's more about the world building and stuff like that. But I always fall off with those shows. And that's just me. Again, personal opinion is going to bleed into this too, obviously. But I am trying to take kind of an objective look when I'm looking at like story beats and characters and things like that. I'm looking at it more of from kind of a story and study standpoint, a literary standpoint, or a film critic kind of standpoint. And so, yeah, and going deeply into the philosophy of all of that just doesn't hit any of those points that really matter in that. Yeah, there are some things that the anime makes you think about. That's definitely true, and we'll kind of touch on that. But going into, like, what did the author mean when he had this person do this? Go to your nearby community college or four-year college. I'm sure you'll find some literature professor that is obsessed with anime, and you can convince them to do a whole class on the philosophy of Death Note. Like, it wouldn't take you that long, and I'm sure you'd have a really great time. That's just not this. I'm not here to do a class thing. It's more of my analysis and screeching into the void. So, other shows and things, or like other topics that I might get into. I'm a really big fan of shonen, like I said earlier, but I find shonen main characters to be the most vapid, boring things in existence. I can't like understand why people like main characters of popular shonen anime. It kind of drives me insane because, and it's not because they don't have a place or there's something like necessarily wrong. It's that they aren't anything. And so things like, really going in and analyzing the main characters of shonen, like, Monkey D. Luffy or Izuku Midoriya or Goku, or looking at, maybe even stepping out of anime. This is Rantings and Ravings. When I watched Firefly for the first time, I was pretty bored. And I know I'll get a million pounds of hate for this. But like I definitely would want to go over like why I don't really care about Firefly. I was completely detached from the time of its like popularity, and when I sat down and I watched it, I was expecting to be gripped, and then the show ended, and I went, okay, so where's Firefly? I don't. All right. So, I might go on into things like, games and things like that too. It's weird. I tend to have a overly analytical mind, so I find things that are really popular, and then I start breaking them down, and by the end of it, all of my friends are tired of me talking for 10 hours about why this Marvel movie is the most awful thing to beset humanity. So, I can, I can definitely, cover things like, cons, what's wrong with them. It'd always be really fun to kind of go over like a primer of like how to do a convention. Like it's kind of interesting. Again, on the surface, cons seem like the most awesome things on the planet, and in a way that they are. But like, if you go into the first experience bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, expecting everything to go great, boy, you're gonna have a rude awakening day 2 when you wake up and you just feel like death. Your wallet's empty, you don't have any food, and you don't know what's going on. And then, even cons themselves, I could go on a 10-hour rant just on the cons that I go to and how mismanaged and trash fiery they are. And why they're awful and how they could do better. So, I'm also like looking for audience topics all the time. Like I'm really good at picking up stuff and ranting about it. Like I love analyzing things. And you never know. We might have a break from a rant and rave and go over something that like I really do like, and kind of go really really deep into it. I actually do panels and things like that at the conventions that I go to. The one that I've been running that's been kind of popular goes over really horrifying stuff from our childhoods. So, TV shows and things that were inappropriate for children, but for some reason they were still let us watch them. Or our parents just didn't know. Like, Ren and Stimpy always comes to mind. I think that's the one, or Invader Zim. I think those are the two big ones of the millennial generation that always come to mind. Um, and going into other things, like what were stuff that was, not so blatantly inappropriate. I think Invader Zim was purposely weaponized to, like, give children things to mess with their parents with. But there's other things that are just as horrifying and more horrifying too, in other shows. So just looking at, like, what are we showing our kids? What did our parents let us watch? There's just it's things like this that fascinate me, that I sit down and I think about all the time, about anime and media. And this is like books and things like that. I even go over, like, Animorphs. And things like that. And if anyone remembers Animorphs, you probably remember that that author was an absolute psychopath. Uh, you know, like, children's novels and young adult stuff had absolutely no limits then. You could write whatever you wanted. They read the first chapter and go, yeah, all right, yeah, we can publish that for kids. And I think that's kind of what happens with a lot of this media, is they, 3 episodes through, boom, all of a sudden they stop watching, but they don't realize in episode 197, some person, gets their, like, spine severed or something awful, and in some terrible way, and it's like, oh well, I guess that happened, and your 4-year-old sitting there going, what just happened, mommy? Oh yes. Oh, you'll be fine. Just scrape it. If you scrape your knee, throw some alcohol on it. The pain will make it better. And it's funny. I think a lot of generations see themselves as the wilder generation, but I think when it comes to media, it all really exploded in the '90s and 2000s, and they just allowed people to do whatever they wanted. So, but it's again, it's things like that that kind of fascinate me. It's things like that that really kind of tickle my brain. And that's why there's this whole creation of this show. So not every show is going to be just me sitting here of, like, hey, this is me. I'm gonna chain together a bunch of fake thoughts about this thing. We'll go over kind of specific topics and stuff like that. And throughout, I'll kind of be paying attention to chat and responding and that sort of thing. So we'll be kind of interactive. As a person who has been a professor and stuff like that, I always love questions. I always love people challenging me. I think one of my favorite things is when I was teaching, I had a couple of students that, like, every single thing, like, they wanted to get my goat. They wanted to get my goat the whole damn semester. It's like, we're gonna piss them off. We're gonna get them frustrated. We're gonna break them. Nope. They tried and tried and tried and tried, but I always love a challenge. So just you can't break someone who doesn't care. Like, I want my thoughts challenged. I also just want to put them out there. So it'll be kind of a fun thing. I might stop mid rant to, like, deeply engage with a question if somebody has one, that sort of thing. And that might all of a sudden deride us for 15 minutes, but we will get back eventually. I hope, probably, in theory, most of the time, kind of. We'll kind of pick moments and things like that. I'll kind of go over, like, really iconic moments. And I'll always find something that I like. There's even things that I like about Death Note, although it's mostly the fashion, because the fashion in Death Note is so iconic. But I'll get into that when we get into the cultural impact, because I think it created kind of this huge cultural revolution, in its own way, during that time. Because a lot of the stuff that I'll probably look at is stuff that's had long enough to create that cultural impact. Death Note, I think the anime hit in 2007 here in the States. Um, I was a teenager, and during that time, there was a lot of that kind of theme, a lot of that kind of, dark kind of gothy, emo-y stuff going on. Um, and so that's why, like, that's the one thing that I also want to dig into, with stuff like that, is like, analyzing, is this why people like this? Are we going back to the Star Wars prequels where, okay, all right, what do we give the girls to look at? Wait, okay, what if we have Queen Amidala change to a completely different, incredibly extravagant outfit every scene? That's how we get the women into Star Wars. That's how we're going to do it. All right, we've solved everything. We can go home. We don't need to plan anything else. It's perfect. All right, time to make $8 billion. It didn't work out so well, though. Shit. Well, shit. God forbid I ever start going over Star Wars. That'll be a marathon stream. If anyone, if this ever takes off, or if we do a charity stream or something like that, we'll do something like Star Wars or something. I mean, hell, I could even find ways to tear apart Lord of the Rings, although it'd break my soul. That would require some real like encouragement to tear apart my favorite thing in the world. But it could be done. It could be done. There are ways that you can pick apart everything. You just have to be finite enough about it. But we're going to start out with stuff that I just outright passionately hate. That sort of thing. But yeah, so that all that kind of stuff is what we're kind of digging into next, or as this kind of goes on. For now we're doing every couple weeks, but as this kind of goes along, I could see this expanding out into every week, multiple times a week. And I might be streaming other things on this channel. I think it's kind of fun to doofully sit here in a mask with red lenses and try to figure out how to play a video game when I can't read half of what's on the screen. It's always kind of a crack up to be an idiot. So I might go live on other days and stuff and stream like things like horror games or like Hearthstone Battlegrounds or stuff like that. Mask on and everything, more for the hilarity of it. Because it's just going to be doofy. But so I could see that evolving as this kind of goes along, and kind of really having fun with it. So and again, I'm also open to any ideas. Anyone want to do setting up other streams and doing stuff like that? I'm here for like kind of infinite feedback. I really just have always wanted to do this. I guess at the end of the day, I've thought about streaming a million times, and I've just never to rip the proverbial Band-Aid off. So a bunch of people held me down and did it for me. So that's gonna be the big kind of thing. I guess. So. Yeah, expect to see us again in a couple of weeks, or expect to see me again. Sorry, I have a whole team, so I guess I'm going to be using the plural. This wouldn't have happened without this great group of people I got behind me that I guess believe in my absolute shit-given insanity. So we're gonna roll with it. And next week we're going to dig into Death Note. We're going to go over the cultural significance, how it kind of changed the world, around me especially, but I think kind of how it affected a lot, especially in the West, especially in America, as anime was getting really bigger at that time. I'm going to dig into like the reason why, it might have blown up, We're talking early Netflix era. Stuff like that. 2 weeks between shows for now. Yeah, there we go. Uh, um, but oh Jesus, I will have brain farts. This is gonna happen. I swear. Uh, but anyway, so digging further in, going back, analyzing the cultural significance, digging into um, how kind of big the show was, and everything like that, and starting into kind of that first arc, which is really the most important one, in a lot of ways, because the first kind of chunk of episodes is really what everyone remembers, what everyone talks about, and it seems to be what all that remembers of the show. The funny part is I was able for let's see, this thing came out when I was able for over 15 years to pretend that I had watched Death Note. It was really easy, and I never understood why it was so easy to pretend that I had seen the entirety of Death Note. So finally, I watched it. And so that will be kind of digging into those first episodes, talking about some of the memes and things like that everybody have kind of seen. Um, and I think that's it for now. We're gonna go ahead and just kind of close off the stream a little bit early today. I think we'll have a full loaded show like ready next week. Or not, sorry, not next week. In 2 weeks. um, yeah, so we'll get it all ready for you guys, and in 2 weeks we'll have a full show going over those topics, and we'll just keep going. Honestly, I think I'm gonna love this. It gives me kind of an organized way to kind of rant, and I hope you guys do too. I hope everyone comes back. I've got a few of you already, and hopefully we'll get a whole community running, and we can all be ranting and raving together. So with that, thank you guys, and I'll see you all next time.
You're muted. Hello? You're muted. Hello? You're muted.